Hey, what is up guys, JayTX here. This is an update video to my League Start Witch Hunter Bleedbow character that I've been playing. We've currently hit 86 and we've pushed into tier 14-15 maps pretty comfortably. We're just finishing off the rest of our Atlas now at the moment. I can easily say that this build has far exceeded my expectations for how Bleedbow should perform. There's obviously been a couple of changes in some of the skill and gear choices that we've gone. And you'll notice that my armor is sitting at a 1% and my evasion is at 69%. The reason for this massive change is, from what I could tell and what I could feel, mitigation is not so good as having just straight up avoidance. So what I mean by that is we've taken acrobatics here. So essentially this character has become a dodge-based tank or dodge-based defense character where we aim to just avoid getting hit from all sources of damage whilst also being able to clear enemies from a range. I'll quickly talk about some of the changes that I've made to the build, namely the skill links and how we actually use Spiral Volley as our main skill now. As you can see, I have Bowshot back again on my left click. This is actually like our primer skill for Spiral Volley. Spiral Volley is going to be the main skill we use in all of our maps. Bowshot is just there to pin enemies so we can generate frenzy charges. So to talk about the setup quickly, we have Bowshot linked to Scattershot, Pin, Lockdown, and Close Combat. So Lockdown and Pin just let you ramp up pins on an enemy. So your first hit generally at close range should be a instant pin. If we get an instant pin, we generate frenzy charges straight away with Combat Frenzy. And then we also have a chance to generate an additional one with Profusion. A cool change to the build is the addition of an amulet called Seerpent's Egg. Whenever we generate a charge, we also generate an additional charge. This just means whenever we pin an enemy, we get 3 frenzy charges straight away. So we can dump our Spiral Volley for a whopping 160% more damage and an additional 3 chains. So this is kind of like the core loop of our gameplay where we shoot our Bowshot and then we use Spiral Volley. On our Spiral Volley links itself, we have Perpetual Charge, Martial Tempo, Heft, and Inspiration. You can also potentially swap out Brutality from your snipe link into here if you're not doing enough damage. I will take out Martial Tempo or Inspiration if you feel like you don't have enough damage. But otherwise, this is the gem link that I feel is the most optimal setup because you have a good amount of attack speed and a low mana cost whilst also keeping a lot of the damage. For our Rain of Arrows setups, this has become almost a utility setup. We almost never press a Rain of Arrows. The reason for this is because Rain of Arrows also can consume frenzy charges and we don't want it taking frenzy charges from our Spiral Volley. So we normally use this only for bosses to stack potential aggravate bleeds on them or to give an armor break to them. Our Rain of Arrows setup is Conk Effect, Splinter, Acceleration, and Demolisher. So these two just help break the armor and this makes the arrows come down faster. In our snipe setup, we're still running Window of Opportunity, Deep Cuts, Brutality, and Super Critical. You can also opt to sub in Exploit Weakness if you need to use Brutality on your Spiral Volley. This skill is really only used on bosses. We almost never need to use this skill on rare mobs because our Spiral Volley does so much damage with our bleed and also our pops that we generally don't need to use a snipe outside of fighting actual map bosses. But it is nice to have just in case you encounter a bad combination of rare mods on our enemy. We store a Freezing Salvo over here, but we rarely use it. It's just more for a panic button. It's Cold Infusion, Hourglass with Freezing Salvo. Combat Frenzy is linked with Profusion, Cannibalism, and Clarity. Cannibalism is incredibly nice for mapping. There have been so many times where I've been almost like one hit from death and I kill a pack of mobs and I instantly get topped up back to full HP. It's an amazing gem for mapping. Clarity is also great for mana regen. It's not as important because we have some mana regen already without it, and we also have inspiration, so the mana cost isn't too much. And also our default bow attack costs no mana. So generally, Clarity is nice, but not absolutely needed. Wind Dancer is absolutely insane with a blind support. Essentially, when you do get hit, Wind Dancer pushes everyone back and it guarantees to blind them. So between our blind and our evasion chance, we actually have an insanely high chance to dodge enemy attacks, and it creates a really, really nice defensive combo between Wind Dancer and Blind. You should also aim to get 20% quality on your Wind Dancer, as it does give an additional maximum stage, so it goes from 3 to 4 stages, so you get a 19% more evasion rating. Finally, we have Alchemist Spoon. This is only necessary if you have a bunch of extra spirit. I've added Vitality and Precision to this. I feel like this setup is entirely pointless, but we had a bit of extra spirit, so might as well get some benefits while you can. Vitality is just nice for a bit of extra regen, and Precision is nice for a bit of accuracy. I don't think either of these things are needed. We're capped accuracy without Precision, and we really have a decent amount of recover life on kill from our cannibalism support. And Alchemist Spoon is just great for getting flash charges in long fights or if you're doing certain boss content. Now I'll quickly talk over the gear that I've got. So we've essentially gone for full evasion on our gear. I'll talk about my bow first. Just a high Fizz DPS bow, so this has 193 to 386. We only really care about the high end number. That affects the upper end range of our bleeds, and we want to push this number as high as possible ideally. I was looking for a 400 plus Fizz DPS base, up potentially 420, but they get very, very expensive. I think this bow base I bought for 70x, and you can get something really, really similar along that price line at the moment. It really depends on how popular these bows are and how many people want these bows, but generally you can get a decent bow, even for 20 and 30x, you get a really nice physical bow. Just try to get as high a possible physical damage number on this as possible. This is the main source of where you scale your damage from. For our helmet, we've gone for a full evasion cap, just fire, chaos res. Haven't even finished qualitating this up, but you're looking for a high life roll, a bit of res, and evasion on it. I've also got rarity on this. I've got a bit of rarity across all of my gear, which is not necessary for the build. I just thought it would be nice to have rarity to get better drops. Not sure of how much a difference it actually makes, but it's nice to have the little placebo there. Our chest piece is a evasion base again. High amount of life with some res. It also has 50 spirit. I feel like this spirit might be a little bit wasted on us, and maybe we should go for a better evasion rating chest. Just keep that in mind when you're going for chests. You don't need to go for 50 spirit. I think 30 spirit is enough, or even no spirit is enough if you just drop some of the aura setups. For our rings, we just have life, resistances wherever we can. Other ring, same thing, life, resistances wherever you can. Bit of mana leech here. Amulet, like I said before, is Serpent's Egg, gives you an extra charge, also gives a bit of chaos res and attributes. Our quiver, it's a serrated quiver, so this is how we cap out the rest of our bleed chance without having to take all the nodes on the tree. Ideally look for a roll that's 14 or 15%, mine's 13%, so therefore my current bleed chance is 99%. I'll be looking to upgrade this in the near future to a better one. You're looking just for Fizz damage to attacks and damage with bow skills. Anything else on top of that is like an extra, so +1 proj is nice, dexterity is nice, even accuracy rating is okay, just anything you can find, but mainly look for the physical damage and damage with bow skills. Our gloves are just life, max res on an evasion base. Similar with our boots. We actually un-ID'd these boots ourselves on stream, so I didn't pay for these boots, which is actually insane. It's a 30% movement speed base with evasion and double res and life with rarity as well. It was actually insane that I managed to un-ID these boots. So they came like this without the evasion rating, and I slammed on evasion rating. So really, really good pair of boots for our build. Something similar to this. You don't need to have as good life or movement speed, just something along these lines. Just focus on getting a high evasion base. And finally, our belt is Rislatha's Coil. No surprises here. Really good for giving us high rolls on our physical damage attacks. It's a little different to PoE 1's one because that used to be generic physical damage. Now it's physical attack damage. But in terms of PoE 2, we do want to scale our physical attack damage because it is the main component for how we scale our bleed damage. You want to look for a high roll on the more maximum and a low roll on the less. Ideally, a 40-30 is the perfect one, but those probably don't exist, or if they do, they will cost an arm and a leg. We actually define this ourselves. You don't really care about the less minimum too much. You just want as high as possible as a roll for your more maximum. That's the one that determines your upper end of the damage. We don't care too much about the other one, but ideally it's something like along these lines of a roll. I know it's pretty insane of a roll, but this is kind of what you're looking for. Alternatively, you can also go for this belt. All the clips you're seeing in the video have been me using this belt. I only recently just swapped to this belt to test it out. You just go for a live double res on a belt, helps you cap out the rest of your gear, and puts less pressure on your resistances. This is also the option to use if you don't have a Reslarthus or you're still farming for a Reslarthus. So talking about our passive tree now, there's been some big changes on the right-hand side of our tree. Notice that how we've dropped the bow wheel here, and we've taken the evasion wheels here with acrobatics. So we're trying to grab evasion wherever we can to stack up our evasion, because acrobatics does give you 70% less evasion rating penalty. So we need to try top it up wherever we can. Since we are using a bow build, we need a lot of dex in our build by default. So taking these nodes here like proficiency and then Falcon Technique lets us scale our dexterity a little bit, so we actually benefit from all the dex that we're stacking. Other than that, we take escape velocity, freedom movement, just more evasion. We also take pin down here. So when we do pin enemies or shoot enemies with our default attack, we have more pin build up. And also when they become unpinned, they're maimed, which is really, really good for us. Maim just means they're 30% slower and they have 15% reduced evasion rating. So even after they finish getting pinned, they're really, really slow when they come towards us. Other changes in the tree are generally the same. We take blind down here. So besides just blind on our Wind Dancer, we have a chance to cause blind on our attacks, which is really amazing. Blind plus acrobatics pretty much makes you almost impossible to hit in maps, and if you do get hit, you get hit very, very infrequently, so you can top yourself up with your life flask. Rest of the tree is still very similar to my previous update video. We anointed cat-like agility onto our amulet for a bit more evasion. The only main thing that we have here are our jewels. People have asked what do we go for on our jewels. There's only two mods you really care about. It's bleeding duration and magnitude of bleeding you inflict. Jewels are very, very powerful ways of scaling your tree, so you can drop a lot of the nodes here, which are just like bleeding duration or generic increase, and you can get both these nodes on a single jewel, which is why it's so valuable and so efficient. I think a perfect jewel looks something like this, so it's increased global physical damage, magnitude, and bleeding duration. Those three combination of mods are probably the best mods you can get on a jewel, something along those lines. You don't have to go for the global physical damage, it's just a nice bonus to have, but mainly get magnitude and bleeding, and look for high rolls on both these values. I'll talk about the actual playstyle of the build. What you want to be doing is always starting off with your basic bowshot attack when you come into maps. This will apply a pin on targets and give you 3 frenzy charges, which you can then spend with your Spiral Volley. Because we have perpetual charges on our Spiral Volley, there's a 1 in 3 chance, or a little bit better than 1 in 3 chance, that we keep our charges so we can dump it again. So it's really important, if you do keep your charges, that you don't use your bowshot again. If you do use your bowshot again, you can trigger your combat frenzy, and then you'll put your combat frenzy on cooldown, and then after you Spiral Volley again, you won't have your bowshot, even though you've had your frenzies the whole entire time. If you keep your frenzies, only use Spiral Volley, don't use your bowshot attack. After you've dumped your Spiral Volley, your combat frenzy should be off cooldown, and then you can bowshot again and instantly get your frenzies back. So that's essentially the playstyle where you're trying to carry your frenzy charges as much as possible through the map without having to have any downtime on the charges. Quickly talking about my current Atlas tree, since we're trying to progress the maps up to tier 15 as much as possible, all we've gone for is increased quantity of waystones wherever we can, and high chance of waystones. So this is what my tree looks like at the moment. I don't know if this is the most optimal tree, this is just the tree I'm running. I'm just trying to get as many monsters as possible, as many rares, as many magic monsters, and try to get as many quantity of waystones as possible. So just so we can sustain our map drops, and then we don't have to worry about going back down tiers. So that's my tree if anyone was interested. I'll have all this information in this video and more in the Mobalytics page here. I'll have my gear, my gem links, and also my skill tree all updated in the Mobalytics page. So if you're curious on what the build looks like, and if you want to have a written guide for it, that's where it'll be. This character has far exceeded my expectations for what's possible as a bleed bow build in PoE 2. I'll be continuing to upgrade this character until we can push him to the limit. I'll be streaming this daily at twitch.tv/JayTX. If you guys want to come in and check on the progress and ask any questions about the build. The next upgrades we'll most likely be going for is a better bow, so maybe a 400 plus Fizz DPS bow, maybe one with even plus arrows or a chain, and potentially a better quiver. Those will be the next 2 upgrades coming up. We also want to fill out the rest of our fire res because we're a little bit undercapped because we swapped from our belts to Reslarthus, and chaos res as well, so potentially filling out the rest of our reses here and maybe pushing our evasion a little bit more. Those are the next upgrades for the character. Hopefully we can push it to level 90. I've been having a really, really good time doing high tier maps, and this build's been shredding the maps like butter, so it feels really amazing to play. Hope you guys check this build out, and if you guys are following along, hope you guys have a good time with the build. As always guys, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.